Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ramon. Thank you very much for joining us. My guest this evening is Mr. Ramon Gaskin, and we want to have some general discussions. But I've invited him particularly because in today's Chronicle, today Wednesday Chronicle, he has announced he had an advertisement inviting persons to attend Christopher Labour College next week. Next Thursday, at which he will be discussing some of the issues facing Guyana. Recently he's been speaking out on matters of sugar, oil. Gaisuko is another one. Well, sugar Gaisuko is one of his topics, but he speaks of sugar in a very bitter sense rather than
yes, you're
a
right
sweet
there.
sense. So I thought we'd have him to talk, but perhaps firstly on this advertisement that you have, Mr. Gaskin, and then I want to ask you about this statement by this AFC minister that the members of the AFC executive are unbribable or unbribable, as somebody said. It doesn't matter which minister said.
We'll talk about that later. Okay.
Yes, this business of your advertisement, what's it all about?
Yes. Well, I'm planning to have this lecture next Thursday at Critchlow at 5 o'clock. And I want to talk about the general situation in Guyana, the general crisis in Guyana. I believe this country is in a state of crisis. And I want to explore with others whether we should create new political organizations in this place.
You sound like third force.
Well, I don't know what I sound like, but I'm telling you what we're about, what we want to do. We want to put this idea out there that for a long time, as you know, even before independence, 53, the country has been dominated by the PPP and the PNC, and the country still is politically. And we haven't made much progress, really, when you really think about it. And maybe we need new political leadership, new ideas, new parties to move this country forward. So we want to put out some ideas to the public and to see what response we get. If the response is positive and favorable, we will go to the next stage, which is to set up a preparatory committee to establish a new political organization, if the response is there. If the response is not there, well, we would have to review this whole idea. But essentially, we want to explore this idea of new political organizations in Guyana.
But your premise, the premise for this, if I get you corrected, is that we have a crisis and we have moved since 1953?
Well, we have a crisis in Guyana. I think the crisis in Guyana, we have a crisis in the economy, in my opinion. We have a big crisis in agriculture with sugar and so on. We have, we're all waiting for oil, we know that. The revenue flows are down. The VAT is increased. There's a lot of taxation in this place. We need tax reform, as you know. We need constitutional reform in this country. We've talked about it a lot. We haven't done it. The health service, the health sector is a total mess. You just have to go to Georgetown Hospital. You'll see what it looks like over there. We have in the educational system great inequality of opportunity for children here. It appears to me that the children of the well-to-do go to the private schools and so on. They do much better than the children of the working people. We have to look into that. We have tremendous inequality here in wealth and earnings and income inside the population. I think about 1% of the people here probably own about, I'd say 90% of the whole economy, of the domestic economy. So it's a tremendous inequality. We have a lot of joblessness, a lot of unemployment here. And on top of that, that is why I call this a whole general crisis inside the society.
But tell
all
me,
these things.
What data do you have to support some of the premises on which you're making these sweeping conclusions? I mean, you talk about unemployment.
Oh, well, let me talk about unemployment.
Where are your data?
If you look at, you read the budget, year after year after year, the minister does not give you a rate, unemployment rate. There is no unemployment rate ever given there. But there is a lot of unemployment. And we have, with the projected closure of the estates by year end, and I think the dislocation of about 10,000 workers, you will have that situation exacerbated by year end. There's a lot of unemployment in this country. There's no place that you could identify right now that is offering a lot of jobs to our people. There's no company you could identify and say if you could go there, you could get a job. There are jobs going there. There's no such thing. So there's a lot of unemployment here.
But still, there's no data.
There's no data. And the government doesn't give out the data. The ministry doesn't give it out. The Stats Bureau does not give out any unemployment data. But there's a lot of unemployment here. And underemployment too. And then we have here, as part of the crisis in this economy, this is a low-wage economy. We have a lot of working poor. The people who are working, that's a major part of the poverty population in this country. That's the working poor. Forget about them who ain't working. But those who are working, especially in the public sector, starting with the public servant, the nurse, the teacher, the policeman, they're all part of the working poor because of a deliberate policy of not valuing their labor and not paying them properly.
Is it a not valuing their labor or not having the resources to pay them adequate wages and salaries?
Oh, I think the resources are there. That's my opinion, of course. The government does not value the labor of its employees. So it's all been like that for a long time.
No, but
and this has to do with both parties. They don't value their people.
No, but I'm asking you, if the government could afford it, why would the government not want to pay its employees
a proper wage?
Proper wage.
Well, they should know that. But I think it's, why doesn't the government pay the workers a proper wage? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Well, one of the reasons, I guess, for that, if you were to start paying your workers a proper wage, and the government is the largest employer of labor in this country, that will put pressure on the private sector to raise wages in the private sector too. A large part of which now is also paying very low wages and also has among its ranks a lot of the working poor in this country. They don't want to do it, but they have no problem. I see they were listing the wages for the new people at SARA. They have no problem paying them 1.4 million to be something up there.
Don't you have an action against SARA?
Yeah, we have a matter in court against the SARA because SARA is unconstitutional in my opinion. We've talked to the lawyers, we filed a case, and we're hoping to get the arguments going soon.
But if you have filed a case against SARA going ahead merrily and
all
this...
SARA is going ahead merrily, although the case is against them. I'm hoping that the legal people will raise this matter at the appropriate forum at the appropriate time. When the arguments start, that will be the job of the legal people to raise this matter. But SARA is going ahead merrily. You have the SARA going ahead merrily. You have SOCU going ahead merrily too. SOCU itself is legally problematic, as you know, in my opinion. But SARA is definitely unconstitutional in many regards.
Now, you said we're going through a crisis. That's the premise for your initiative. Our exchange rate is fairly stable. At one time it looked quite troubling.
Yes.
But it has stabilized. Intervention by the Minister of Finance, intervention by the Governor of the Bank of Guyana. So the exchange rate is not a significant problem. Interest rates haven't started to rise to reflect any abnormal risk in the economy.
Yes.
Well,
you know, when the World Bank looks at the economy, that's what they look at. They look at the exchange rate, growth rate, and what is the other rate? Growth rate and exchange rate.
And interest rate.
And interest rate. When I look at the economy, I don't look at that. I look at the people. I look at the people in the villages, if there's work for them and how they make a living, how they get a livelihood. I'm not interested. Those rates are very important too. But in my opinion...
But those rates affect the people here.
Those rates affect the people, but the training and the thinking about the people who run things in this place has to do with these three rates. You cannot talk about the entire economy and talk about three rates. The
No.
economy at the end of the day is about people and joblessness and wages and unemployment and purchasing power and taxation and all of that. Not just those three rates. And every time you read the World Bank document and IMF document, they give you the three rates and they're done with that. I don't work like that.
But you are speaking of microeconomics and they're speaking of macroeconomics.
They're talking what they want to talk about. I'm talking about Guyana. I'm talking about people here who live here.
But-
and who have to make a living here.
But-
and I have my own way of approaching it.
You may.
Yes.
When the Minister of Finance presents his budget, he looks at, because you have to look at the
Oh,
economic
oh
framework.
yes,
within
and that's
your-
why we're in a mess, because he looks at the three rates and he doesn't understand the economy and what's happening at Rose Hall and LBI and Wales and Iflock and Pleasance and Buxton and Strathspey and LBI and Enmore. That's where you should go and see the economy, not these three rates they talk about all the time, which are of no use to me really. They're important for people who study theoretical economics,
No,
but not to people who are interested in the
Raymond,
condition of the working people.
No, Raymond, that sounds.
And that's
I mean,
my approach. I really don't plan to change it.
No, fine,
No.
fine. Nobody,
No.
and no one is trying to get you to change
I
it.
hope so.
But surely,
Uh-huh.
if the exchange rate was to depreciate, it would affect those very people in Strathspey
Yes,
and Industry
yes.
and Pleasance. And all.
And the exchange rate affects them, the tax affects them,
So it affects
the cost
them.
of living, everything affects them
So you
too.
can't say that.
But exchange rate, why is the exchange rate where it is? A lot of it has to do, I think, with the present, the cost of oil, of energy, and the importation of fuel into this country. And for a long time, that has been quite low, and we haven't had to put out the amount of foreign exchange we need to pay for that thing. And if you look at
But hold on.
and therefore
hold
the
on.
demand on the foreign
We've only enjoyed low price for fuel for about 2 years. We had a series, a couple of years ago, the oil price was going through,
and that
not quite the roof, but somewhere like the ceiling.
But that is helping us to keep the exchange rate moderated. But as you say, the central bank has intervened in the market. I don't know how much they put into it, but you say the central bank has intervened to curb that. It was rising quite rapidly not too long ago.
But the measures they took they have seemed to have had some impact.
I would say so. I would say so.
I heard Mr. Jagdeo talk. It's heading to 230 and 250. Well, it's nowhere close to that.
That is true at the present time. It doesn't mean we cannot reach 230, 250. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah, but even with Mr. Jagdeo talking down the exchange rate, which is never a good thing to
I
do.
don't know if he was talking down the rate, but we have a lot of exports of, say, the gold, I think the mining sector. A lot of gold is sold outside by the big companies, shipped to wherever, Canada, Australia, and there's no foreign exchange coming in for that. That also is a problem, has been a problem for a long time. And when we ship bauxite to Russia and Bosai,
What do you mean? We sell the gold and we get no foreign exchange? What do we get?
the people there, the OMI people don't send the gold fields
This has
people.
nothing to do with OMI.
The gold fields people, the big
No,
companies we deal with, the foreign exchange from the sale of the gold,
No,
from the
but
sale of the
Raymond,
bauxite. Let me
Raymond,
see if I
no.
could finish. When we send the bauxite to Rusal and we sell it to Bosai, we don't get a check from those people for the bauxite we
But
ship
let's
up there.
talk about gold. I mean,
Let's go to
hold on,
gold.
hold on,
Let's
hold
go
on.
to gold.
Let me finish. Can I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's not only about Troy Resources or Guyana Goldfields. The local mining sector has been doing extremely well
The local mining sector has been doing extremely
and is
well.
responsible for the gold production being what it is.
And production, but I'm talking
So
about
we
the
call
foreign
it-
earnings.
No,
the
but
foreign
that
earnings.
comes back.
The local.
Whatever the gold board buys, and sells, comes back in foreign exchange.
Yes, from the locals.
Yes.
It was not from the foreign.
No, but to suggest that the entire gold mining sector is all about Troy Resources.
Not the entire
and
sector, no, not the entire
Not even
sector.
50%.
Not the
even
entire
50%.
sector. For the foreign companies that ship gold,
I
we
accept
do
that.
not get the foreign exchange.
I accept
For
that,
the
but to
foreign
suggest
and-
that all the money from
No,
gold
no,
has to
no,
go back.
no, I'm not saying that. The gold board, when they sell abroad, the foreign currency will come back here, but for the foreign companies and for Bosai and for Rusal, when they ship the goods outside, the foreign currency does not come back. If we were to have the advantage of some of those currencies coming back, we would be in a much better position, but we don't get it. We don't get it.
Well, you have. It's because these are foreign companies.
Yes,
That's part of the economic structure.
that's correct. It's part of the economic structure, so they could just ship the thing out. Yes.
No, we either have it or we don't.
Well, this
We tried. Hold on. We tried to say, oh, we must command it. The commanding, we must control the commanding heights
of the country. I
economy. You
remember that.
You
I remember all of that story. And in those
And
days,
you know what happened?
well, we know what happened. Why it happened, how it happened, and who was responsible for that, that's a separate question.
Mm-hmm.
But we shipped the bauxite. There was a lot of failure up there, and we didn't get what we were expecting to get. But that's part of the history.
But
now
let's
we're
stick
shipping it, and we get nothing.
Let's stick to
The
our
crisis in
discussion.
Guyana.
Yes.
The crisis in Guyana.
So you're saying the macro variables in the economy might be positive, but it's not going on there. It's not.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what they call the macro variables in the economy, the growth rate, the exchange rate, and the inflation rate. I'm not saying that.
What? Say, no.
I'm not basing my
I know that.
on those rates.
No, you're saying that whatever the circumstances of the macroeconomic variables, exchange rate, interest rate,
Growth
and
rate,
inflation,
and growth rate and so on.
it is not filtering down to the average person.
I'm saying that in this economy here, we have high unemployment. Nowhere you can go and get proper jobs. This is a low-wage economy, and a lot of poverty, and a lot of inequality. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. In the midst of all these positive variables, that's what you have in this economy. Joblessness, inequality, homelessness, poverty. That's
All
what
right.
I'm talking about.
You talked about your lecture.
Yes.
You
Next
talked about-
Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a public lecture.
It's a public lecture, yes.
How do you propose, assuming your analysis, your diagnosis
It's
is correct, how do you
Propose
propose
to deal with
the
it.
treatment?
Yes. Well, the treatment.
How do you, let me put it, let me ask a practical
the
question.
treatment of the patient has to do essentially with the diagnosis
Yes,
and the causation.
but part of your diagnosis is you said that, look, you have 1% of the population.
They own about 90%.
So what are you going to do?
of
You're
the-
going to take away from the 1%?
Well,
what are you going to do?
we'll have to look at the diagnosis, and then we'll have to look at the prescription to deal with it.
But one would assume that you've already looked at it. You've already
We've
done your
already-
diagnosis.
We've done a lot of diagnostic work, a lot of clinical work, and Thursday I want to present the prescription. And I want to invite those who agree with what I'm saying to join with me to see whether we can create a new political organization in this country. That's the purpose of the meeting.
So it's quite possible that out of this next week Thursday, a new political party can be born.
Yes. If the response is favorable, and if there's a sufficiency of persons who agree with what I'm saying and who believe that the PNC and the PPP can't help us.
After the debacle of the WPA, after the meltdown of the AFC, these were considered serious third parties.
Yeah.
Why do you think any initiative from anyone, Ramon Gaskin or anybody else, would succeed where those people have failed?
But we don't know. We don't know unless you try. How would you know?
No, but you must think there's a chance of success before you
when you go back to the whole question of third parties, I would have to say that the third parties in this country, going back to Peter de Gard United Force, They're the two parties. They're the people that changed the course of development here. It is the United Force that changed things in this country at independence, that helped Burnham to come to power. And it is the AFC with the small numbers that helped the PNC to come to power again and remove the PPP. So don't knock these small parties. Don't knock them, because they played very critical roles in the political history of this country, starting with Peter DeGarre
I was
the United Force.
them, but you know, they have this tendency. Okay, they do that, and then they disintegrate. It's almost like
I don't know if the United Force.
the United Force did disintegrate.
Because go back to the history. What happened to the United Force?
They had 18% in 1964.
The United Force.
We know
They
that
joined
story.
with Burnham. Burnham came to power. Eventually, they disintegrated.
That's what we said.
Some of them joined Burnham. You have some of them joining PNC now. In this new coalition, this new dispensation, a lot of them going to join the PNC. So
What
that
you mean? The
in the APNO and in the WPA, in the WPA, the AFC, they're all with the PNC.
All right, what we're saying. Let's separate the two. So you had in 1964 to
Peter DeGarre
68. I think DeGarre resigned in 67.
Yeah.
Then here comes.
Well, the guard achieved what he was set out to achieve, which is to prevent Jagan from taking over the government at independence. The guard achieved what he wanted.
He probably had other motives as well.
Yeah, there was some other
He had some private sector motives.
Yes, and he achieved that.
Getting some currency out of the country.
Plenty of that, with the banks, the IH, and the guard's holdings and all of that. But the fact of the matter, he achieved what he wanted to do, and he gradually, shall we say, walked away from the politics.
Then you indicated that the AFC, you said we shouldn't
knock them. No, because they're the people that helped the PNC to get rid of this PPP government after 23 years.
Would you say that in doing so, they have guaranteed their own survival and success and development?
No, they haven't guaranteed their own success. But after 23 years or so many years, since 92, it was really time for a change. And without the AFC, the PNC alone could not have done it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So they played a useful role.
My question to you is
if they would survive, if the present AFC would survive.
Yes.
No, I think by 2020, Trotman would bring the entire AFC into the PNC lap. I think so.
And when you say the entire, you mean Moses Nagamutu?
Yeah, the whole AFC will come into be part of what they call APNO. So it'll be one of the APNO parties. You won't have AFC plus APNO, you'll have APNO. And the AFC will be in there, like the Justice for All and WPA and all them will be in one big PNC party. I think so. Trotman will take them there.
So what role do you see yourself? Forget Eddie Gaskin's initiative. Any similar kind of organization, political organization, what role do you see it playing?
Joining PNC?
No, not joining PNC. What role do you see yourself playing?
The question of a new third party, there are lots of other third parties around already. You have the URP, the OVP, fourth and fifth and all that. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we should have plenty. I really do believe that. To just have two is no good. The PNC, PPP.
Are they making any difference?
Well, they'll have to go and do the work. They have to go and do the work. It's not easy in this country. It's not easy to come up against these two big parties. But they have to do the work. The URP, the OVP, even the United Force, all those small parties.
But you only those things.
I think they have to do the work.
I don't want to knock them. I think it's commendable. But they come, they get little publicity at election time, and then they disappear.
Yes, they don't really disappear.
Where are they?
You can't knock them because if you didn't have them, if you didn't have the United Force and the AFC, we're
not talking about the United Force and the AFC.
No, but they're the small third parties that had come up at a particular historical juncture and changed the politics here, changed the course of history. The UF and the AFC. And the AFC removed the PPP from power, and the UF joined with PNC to put Burnham in power in 64, December. So that's what happened. So we can't knock them.
Okay, how does that, you talked about the
road, you see the WPA, the WPA was a kind of also new third party, radical Rodneyite, very progressive, working class, blah, blah, blah. But now the WPA has joined with the PNC, and it is no longer really viable as a party that it was.
Well,
So you don't have any longer a strong left-wing working class ideologically bent in that direction any longer. You don't have it.
let us be hypothetical now.
Mm.
Let us say that you were to get some support to move forward a political party.
Mm.
What would be the philosophy and the ideology of such a party?
Essentially, it would be like a Rodneyite party, a left-wing party, radical left-wing revolutionary party.
But that's WPA?
Essentially.
That's WPA?
No, but I don't know about this WPA. I know the Rodneyite WPA. Then I know the Rodneyite.
But
the WPA now is not that. The present WPA is not that. It's not Rodneyite.
No, but you have David Hines.
Mhm.
Every week he writes and he
Rodneyite?
talks about
Is that right?
the Rodneyite principle.
I
That's
don't.
what he stands up for
I
all the
don't.
time.
I don't think David Hines is pushing.
He has a
Rod-
column. He has a column every week, and he pushes the Rodneyite principle.
I don't think he
does
pushes.
he?
No, I don't think he pushes Rodneyite.
What's he be pushing?
Ideology. I don't see. The last column he wrote, I think last Sunday, he's trying to rehabilitate Burnham. That's what he was writing about. So he's not pushing no left-wing economic agenda or political agenda. He was rehabilitating Burnham in his last column. I read it last Sunday.
So you think
The WPA, the
Rodneyite
WPA,
radical as well?
yeah.
Your movement?
If we can get it, of course it will be. There's not to be conservative about in this place. There's
No,
not to be
I'm not
conservative.
necessarily. I'm
But
not
the WPA
saying
has
one
gone
or-
in bed with the PNC, and them and the PNC the same thing now. The WPA is in bed with the PNC, and they become PNC, all of them. And Trotman and all of them, they're all PNC. What do you think they are?
Which Trotman you talking about here?
Raphael Trotman from AFC, PNC.
All right,
all of them. All of them. So you got PNC and PPP. That's what you got.
Well,
That's what you got.
I hope.
Oh.
I look forward to.
To
I'm
hearing
sure the viewers would like to hear
more about
some more
about this thing, what I have in mind.
I don't know, and when you, I hope you keep saying I. I hope it's not going to be a maximum leader kind of story.
No, the question is not the question is whether you support these ideas, and once you support them, you come aboard. You don't support them, you can't come aboard.
Mhm.
If you support what PPP doing and PNC, you're welcome to go there and to stay there. But if you support the radical ideas, these new ideas about Guyana, then you can come aboard. Simple. It's a very simple system. A lot of people like PNC and that for good reason. A lot of people like PPP and for good reason. And they can stay there if they wish and support Jadley and Granger and whoever they want and Trotman and the whole set of them. And Nagamutu.
Now, very interestingly, and I want to invite you for a couple of comments.
Mm.
Nigel Yu is a former chairman
Mm.
of the AFC.
Mm.
Said the oil companies will do what with the next elections?
I didn't hear him.
Yes.
I didn't go to
yeah,
his lecture. What he said?
Well, I'm not talking about lecture. Right?
No, what verb he used? What they will do?
That they will shape the next election.
If that is what he said, he is correct. The next
That's what he
elections,
said, that's
the
what he
next elections in 2020, with the oil company around, we talk about Exxon, the big Exxon people here. They would have something to say about this election, and they would probably put their money behind some candidate or the other. I think so.
But do you see any contradiction or conflict between what Nigel Hughes has said, that the oil company is going to decide the next elections, and a minister of the government, an AFC minister of the government, saying the AFC executive members are unbribable?
Is that right? Well,
Well, he said it. I mean,
yeah.
what do you
Well,
mean? Is that right?
The question is, the fact that ExxonMobil involves itself in elections in those countries where it operates ought not to be a surprise to anybody. They spend money, they have money available for political work, and they support political parties in all those countries where they operate, I think. Everybody knows that if you read about ExxonMobil. They're very active politically in those countries. and they put a lot of money where their mouth is and their financial interests. So that's one. And I think in Guyana in 2020, they will be very heavily involved in the local politics, and they'll probably have strong views on who should get the work. I'm sure they have their favorites by now, but we'll see. In terms of whether the AFC executives are bribable or not, I don't think one minister of the government from the AFC is in a position to know that. There's no one person who can know that. He might know if he's bribable, but he can't come and tell me that this entire group of men and women not bribable. He wouldn't know that. He wouldn't know that.
In fact, you know.
How would he know that? Did he talk to all of them?
No, but even if he talked to, if you're taking a bribe, you're going to say you're taking a bribe?
No, but they would know who taken. Then they would know among themselves who taken. But ExxonMobil does give a lot of bribes to politicians all over the world.
No, but
I wouldn't be surprised if they do it here.
You know what bothers me about that statement?
Who said that? Dominic Gaskin?
Dominic Gaskin, yes.
He ain't so bright, you know. I
don't
say
think-
these things.
I don't judge people by their
By the-
intellect. I judge people by
By
understanding.
by the deeds, by the word, by the nonsense they talk. He could be judged by the nonsense he's talking about, who's bribable and who's not bribable.
My bigger concern is when he says that, he almost gives a license to his colleagues. Because, we're not bribable, so you can go and do whatever you want.
But did you notice since he's the only one that said it and nobody else wanted to say that? Nobody else said it after him. In other words, they're saying, you talk for yourself. You talk for yourself.
No,
if you're
he
bribable.
spoke for everybody. He spoke for the executive.
He cannot speak. On a matter like that, he cannot speak. He
But
cannot
my
speak.
bigger concern is that that's almost a license to the others.
I don't look at that. I don't look upon it as a license to the others. I look upon
But I'm
it.
telling you my view, chap.
I look upon it as sheer foolishness. Because ExxonMobil and the oil companies do bribe politicians all over the world, and Guyana is no exception. I think the Economist had a piece on this the other day, a
But
couple of weeks
this
ago.
business about ExxonMobil, let us not pretend our local private sector doesn't know it as well. You know.
No, they do it all the time. Of
You
course
know
they
that.
do it. They do it all the time. But that, you know what Luncheon said about our local private? He said, but them must be crooks. There must be native crooks. Says okay if they do it. But when the foreign people come to do it here, it's a big difference.
What you going to do with these native crooks and these
When
foreign
native
crooks?
crooks,
Yes,
you get
this-
rid of native crooks. How could you get rid of native crooks?
No,
Plenty of them.
I'm not.
You got plenty of them.
You can have Mr. Basil Williams, Attorney General Senior Counsel,
Which-
talks about convention against United States Convention Against Corruption.
Yeah, 20 yeah.
It says you must have serious laws against campaign financing.
But he doesn't
and
do
political
it.
parties.
But he doesn't do it.
No. Well,
He says so. He doesn't do it. Of course he says that. United Nations Convention Against Corruption. He doesn't do it. He talks a lot. There's a lot of talk from these politicians, a lot of propaganda. They don't do it. They don't do it. They talk a lot. They don't do it.
you know,
And they're very good at talking when you look at them.
I think it was last Friday, a staff member of mine, of our firm, a young lady, was heading home. She was in Station Street, and a vehicle just drove up, demanded and bashed her. Serious assault. Now, we have crisis in security.
Yeah, one of the
I think-
crises in the country.
No, but Mr. Gaskin, and I'll have to start calling you Mr.
You
Gaskin.
can't
now.
anything.
Not anything, not
Yeah,
anything.
you can't anything.
But one of the first obligations of a government is to protect its citizens. Now, President Granger said the other day, we've got a few criminals and he gonna get them. Is that delusional?
I don't know. I didn't hear him speak.
No, I'm telling you, he said that.
He said that.
Yes.
I don't know if we have a few criminals and if he go and get them. I don't know that.
I mean,
But
it's not
the
gra-
crisis in the security situation in Guyana is one of the crises in Guyana that creates what we call the general crisis.
No, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk
Don't run
about
away
it.
from it.
No, I'm not running away. I'm talking about crisis in Guyana.
You've seen you've seen the Minister of Public Security, and now his statement by Mr. Granger. It's so regrettable.
But it's silly. It's silliness. It's silliness.
But
It's
no,
not well thought
You
out.
can't get up. This is a serious area. You can't. It almost tells people who have been the victims of criminal acts.
Now we got a couple of criminals.
And you know, y'all don't make a big deal of
No,
this
we got a
thing.
couple of criminals and we'll get them, yes.
But that to me is almost irresponsible.
But I think, generally speaking, President Granger's position on criminals and crime and the criminal element for some time now, for a person like myself reading about him, he takes a very soft position on that.
But you yourself were the victim of a serious...
Plenty times, yes. Where I'm living, I was attacked 5 times in my own
Yeah.
house where I live.
Yeah.
But President Granger...
Would you say... Well, you said it's a stupid statement.
Yeah, it is a stupid statement to say. We don't have just a few criminals among and you can get them. It's much more serious. We have a big problem with crime in this country. We have a very big problem with crime.
Because now people just are afraid to
That's
go.
correct. Oh, yes.
And you know, the paradox is this, or the irony of this. You're saying there's just a few criminals, and yet all these ministers surround themselves with security.
Oh, yeah, all of them. We have in this country, somebody can build a airstrip a mile long, and nobody knows who built it and when it was built or how it was
And
built.
we expect the Amerindians to report it, not,
Yeah,
not the army that is out there.
They're out there, yes.
What the hell are they
So
doing?
that's what. So the security situation here is very weak. On the domestic crime, on the international, the border security is very weak and non-existent. To build an airstrip a mile long, it requires a lot of people and work and sand and stone and loan and granite and equipment and excavate and all of that. And nobody knows about all this thing until it's done, and then the plane comes, and then we see the big plane. It's amazing here. I think the minister responsible for security in any proper country would have resigned. Who is the minister responsible for national security here?
You know, Mr. Gaskin, you certainly know. But we've been told that, look, in fact, nobody resigns.
That's correct. Nobody.
What
resigned.
we do, we reassign.
They reassigned.
You had Rupert Rupnarayan
He was
reassigned to
reassigned.
the Ministry of the Presidency.
Yeah, yes.
You got
A new
Dawn
minister,
Hastings
she's being reassigned.
reassigned to
You
Ministry.
know why she's reassigned? You would like to know, in my opinion?
Well, no, I just want if your facts. It's helpful, but not just opinion.
Well, I'll give you this. The opinion is based on the facts. When you look at the facts, the fact is that she's the kind of minister of housing in the place. Isn't that junior minister, and that she had responsibility for housing. But here we have the Central Housing and Planning Authority has some new leadership, which comes from the military. And they ain't keen to be reporting to the no junior minister. So they don't need her anymore. That's what happened. In my opinion, that's what happened there.
No, but the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Mr. Gaskin, is an authority. It is not no single person.
Yes.
The head of the CHPA may be a military person or ex-military person, but the Central Housing and Planning Authority is made up of a number of
I know, but
civilian persons.
the CEO, who is the big top man there now, he ain't comfortable dealing with no junior minister like she in the place with cabinet responsible for housing, and she got to go some other place. As simple as that when you look at it.
No, that's just one possibility.
Yeah, but you can come up with some other possibility.
No, I'm not going to speculate.
Yeah. But we have the Ministry of the Presidency with about 4 or 5 ministers now, 4 or 5 ministries inside the ministry. That's a good, interesting one. The Ministry of the Presidency with Minister Hastings, Minister Rupnarayan, Minister of Cohesion inside there, and some other ministers.
You know, you talked about 1953. This is the largest and most expensive government in the history of Guyana.
That's correct. Yes, billions of
Easily,
dollars.
easily.
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
The best paid, the largest number, everything by
Yes.
any measure,
Yes, it is. It is.
other than the measure of effectiveness and impact.
And competence and performance. Yes. And performance. You don't get it. You don't see it at all.
Do you think it's the size of it then that makes them less effective than
No,
the past?
no. It's not the size of it that makes them less effective. It's the party system we have. where the party wins, and the party wins power, and you select ministers from the party list and from the party colleagues, and that's what you got to choose from. That's what you got, and you choose from there. When Sheddy came to power, he had the same
Mr.
problem.
Gaskin,
He choose all.
yeah, but we had so how come this one is less effective than anyone in the past?
Well, whether they're less effective, you have to look at the reasons why they appear to be less effective than, say, the Jagdeo cabinet or the Burnham or Hoyt or Jagan cabinet. You'll have to see what are the reasons for all of that. We've got plenty of them here now. But many of them in the PPP cabinet, Jagan cabinet, 92, they weren't effective too.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them in the Jagdeo administration, they weren't effective.
Do you think it's purely an academic exercise to try to rate a government?
No, I think it's necessary to assess performance. It's a necessary thing. I don't call it rating them. I call it assessing the performance of these governments that the taxpayers have to support all the time. It's a useful thing to assess them.
But how do you, when information doesn't easily flow, take the most important sector we know.
The oil thing.
Yes.
Yes. They will not give you any information on it at all. And they keep telling you they cannot disclose information. We know that's not true. We know what the law says, Section 4. We know they can do it, and they don't want to do it.
But you know...
And you have this stubbornness around all the time in this government. We know we're supposed to get a chairman of GCOM. There's a lot of fooling around there all the time, and the place remains vacant. We know we're supposed to have in the Constitution an Ethnic Relations Commission. I don't think that has been done yet.
We don't have it 2 years. No. We don't have local government commission.
We're supposed to have the local government commission. We don't have that. And they're not uncomfortable. The government is not uncomfortable that these positions have not been filled. And they keep going on all the time. They're not, and these are constitutional positions. The Constitution requires them. Requires these institutions, and the government is not uncomfortable that you don't have them at all. I think it's terrible. It's terrible. And the GCOM chairman, we don't have a GCOM chairman, and nobody is and it's below, I think in the case of the GCOM chairman, the court has given a ruling, some kind of ruling. The head of state is still not too happy with the ruling, and we can't get that.
He said he has his own interpretation.
He has his own, and that's her perception of things.
I think we're talking about oil.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most astounding and confounding situation, we do not have a national policy on the petroleum sector.
Mm-hmm.
It must be one of the few countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we ought to have done, this government ought to have done when it came into power, it knew within days of coming into power that we had a major oil find. Up to now, we have not articulated an petroleum policy, let alone an energy policy.
Well, the minister says he has the best experts in the world that he has gathered in Guyana.
That's not a policy.
And they are
that's
making,
not a policy.
no, I guess they're making policy too for him.
No, they can't make policy for him. The president has to make
They're
policy.
proposing things for him that eventually will be policy somehow.
Mr.
He got them all there.
Mr. Gaskin, you have read this contract. I know you have. You've read the model contract. You've read
the act. It's a terrible.
You read the legislature.
It's a terrible contract we have with the Exxon people.
You know, some of these students.
But you've been writing about that every man, woman, and child must be ready for oil. Well, I've been reading it. It's a terrible contract we have with these people.
But I keep saying this: if you don't have a framework, you have this kind of ad hoc relationship, and all you have if this man has such, if the minister has such world-class advisors, why is he afraid to show who they are or say who they are?
Well, he announced one, Dr. Jan Mangal.
No, that's the presidential advisor.
Presidential advisor.
That's
he got some other people there. No. I don't know who these people. He got some other people.
So they're so world-class that we can't see who they are?
Because it's secrecy. Secrecy is an important characteristic of this government and the previous government. This license agreement, this license was granted in 1999, June, And the production sharing agreement was signed by Janet Jagan as president in 99 June. And for 18 years, nobody knew about this thing. 99 June, 18 years ago, nobody knew about this thing. And now we're hearing about it. And now you see the document. You see it's a terrible giveaway of the resources of this country by the previous government. But this government had an opportunity to improve upon it, because at the time that agreement was signed in June 99 by Janet Jagan, the Exxon SO, it's called now, SO did not have a production license. And it is this government that gave them the production license, I think about a month ago. And there was an opportunity to improve on that. And they did not do it. They did not take advantage of that opening to improve on that oil agreement we have. The agreement we have with Exxon SO is a very bad agreement for this country.
Well,
in my opinion.
I think, and as you know, the system we have a model petroleum contract. Someone comes in and says, look, we're interested, or if there's an option, you said, okay, please come, let's talk. Here is the model production agreement. That's what we have. Now, I am convinced, I really am convinced. I don't think these people have read this agreement. I don't think they've read the legislation, not the agreement.
You mean the government?
This
in
government.
99 or this present set, or both sets?
I am saying this. I am saying this set.
And the previous set?
I am saying this set, including those who went to Texas. I am saying that.
They didn't read it, and Janet didn't read it, and Jack didn't read it either.
No, but you just now said we have to deal with the present.
Yes, and we have an
Nothing
opportunity. No. We have an opportunity to improve upon it, and we didn't do it.
We missed the opportunity.
We missed the opportunity.
And we have this model agreement you give to people, and they come back and say, well, look, I want this improve and that improve.
Mm-hmm. But we haven't read it yet. They haven't read it yet. They didn't read it, and Janet didn't read it. Nobody didn't reading it. They're reading it seriously and studying it. And a simple thing, a simple exercise they can do. What did the other guys get in Nigeria? What did the guys get in the Philippines? Or what did they get in Mozambique? To see what those guys get. It shouldn't take more than about 2-3 days to see. Even that they didn't do. That's simple homework. And therefore, that failure to do that work is either you're stupid and you're dumb and you're ignorant, or it's a result of corruption, or all of the above. Absolutely.
No, they rely on these world-class experts.
No, in 1999, there were no world-class experts around. I think Exxon brought the agreement to them.
No, that's not true.
99.
That is not true. In 99, we used a model production sharing agreement.
And what world-class experts they used?
No.
Jagdio and Janet.
Nobody said about world-class.
They never had, they used
No. So to say that ExxonMobil brought their own is not correct.
But this agreement that they brought and they signed, that Janet Jagan signed it herself. If they'd looked at some other agreements, we shouldn't take them days or weeks to do, they would have seen that in the other agreements, there's much more that could have been obtained, even from the Exxon people, even from Exxon, that signed in Equatorial Guinea, that signed in Chad, that signed in Angola, that signed in Nigeria, and signed in a lot of places. If they look at those agreements,
I don't think, again, all those countries that you mentioned, they did not have, some of them only discovered oil in 2010.
In 2010?
Yes.
Well, that may be so, but there were some, there are a lot of agreements, there was no homework. Jagdio and Sam Hines and them didn't do any homework. People brought the thing, and they looked at it. The people brought the thing.
No,
and
you
they
can't
look
say
at
that, man. That's not true.
I'm saying it.
It's not true.
I insist. I think so. I think that's what happened.
Mr. Gaskin, I'm telling you.
I know that. I know your position.
No, it's not my position. It's a fact. Hold on. The GGMC had a model petroleum production agreement. That's what it was. Where you're correct is they give it to the various oil companies, and the oil companies come back and say, look, we want this change and we want that change. That's how it works.
And therefore the oil companies give it back to them and say, this is what we're willing to sign.
Yes.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
No, that's not what you said. Anyway, don't let me worry about what you said.
But that's what it is. Our companies...
You said they brought an agreement.
They brought it back and tell them this is what we're willing to sign.
Now,
And when you look at that agreement, it's a terrible agreement. It really should be. I'm not even sure if it's legal. You know, I was looking at it. I think you should be able to mount a challenge against that in the High Court. I think so. If you get some serious lawyers to mount a challenge
you need
against,
some serious fees as well.
yeah, to mount a challenge against that agreement and have it go before the judge for review. That
mean,
same agreement.
There's a consequence of oil that we often ignore,
Mm-hmm.
and that oil leads you into believing that, look, this is nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
This solves all your problems. You ignore your agriculture, you ignore your manufacturing. How serious a danger is that in Guyana?
I think these year, the president said the people believe it. That is why it doesn't matter if Gaisuko goes down the drain, or the rice industry, or get rid of Gaisuko, get rid of all those people, and get rid of that because of the oil is coming. I think these people believe that. They subscribe to that notion. It will turn out to be to their detriment if they believe that.
Not
because
this is the danger.
to the country,
not to their
to the
detriment.
country. Because oil is coming, you really don't need to fight.
Politicians and ministers, they're well taken care of.
Yeah.
Once you get into part of your pension and everything, they're not doing too
But
bad.
they may be underestimating the consequences of ignoring and shutting down the other sectors. They may be.
Well, all it requires, you take a spreadsheet and you punch in some numbers and you say, look, this is the agreement that we have. Let's see if oil is such and such a barrel, cost of production is such and such, or royalty is 2%, or profit share is 50%. This is what we're going to get. That's all you got to do.
Profit share inclusive of royalty, right?
Yes.
Inclusive of royalty.
Raymond, that's all they have
And
to
here
do.
you have profit share inclusive of whatever is the royalty. And the man comes back and says they've been able to increase to double the royalty from 1 to 2. And is that inside the profit share, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4? And he comes back just trying to mislead people all the time that he was able to double the royalty. But we'll get to see. We'll hear. But I think it ought to be challenged. A legal challenge ought to be mounted.
Well, maybe with this movement that you're thinking about.
We're thinking about all these things, if it could be challenged. And we put it before the High Court and let the judge look at it and give an opinion. I think so.
What are some of the... You said we're going through a whole bundle of problems.
But you mentioned one that I didn't speak about, the crisis in crime. I talk about the crisis in the economy, the crisis in the social services and the health sector. We have crisis in education, crisis in joblessness, inequality in the society, crime, suicide, all these things. Out migration, everybody wants to leave this place, and they're feeling it. If everybody wants to leave, we have a big crisis in this country. Inequality.
What about governance?
Because there's no governance here. What governance you got here?
You mentioned a couple where we do have...
We need constitutional reform. We have an all-powerful executive president. All that is part of the crisis.
Well, there's a movement led by someone with your namesake that's talking about constitutional reform as well. The Rise.
Yeah, the Rise. Well, you should do it.
But Raymond, look at this. We have a constitution, and people openly flouting it. What is constitutional reform going to do for us?
Well, there is need to be, I guess, the reform of the constitution to deal with people who flout the constitution. I think one of the problems with this constitution has to do with sanctions for flouting it. The constitution is not sufficiently strong on applying sanctions for flouting it. If you beat the red light, you get sanctioned. If you violate this constitution, you don't see the sanctions so easily.
If you violate your oath of office, you're subject to
the impeachment.
Impeachment?
But when you look at the impeachment rules here, very difficult to get it done. We need to change all that to make it quite more easy to impeach people and remove them, whether it's the minister, president, vice president, to remove them for violating the oath of office. the constitutional reform needs to put that in. How to sanction these people, the earlier the better, and to get rid of them when they misbehave. As simple as that. And we don't have that. We don't have that with sufficient clarity and efficiency and alacrity inside the present constitution.
But
we need to put it in.
There must be some bright spots in our society. What are those?
In bright spots in this present society?
Yeah.
Well. Well, if you read the papers today, we have quite a few bright children in this place.
No, I wasn't.
In the educational system.
That's a lot of private schools. That elite school.
From the elite schools. The university, we talk about crisis. The universities and the crisis. I think you work there sometimes. We have crisis all over.
I don't even like to think about it.
What is the bright spot? What is
I'm
the bright
asking
spot?
you.
I can't think of it right away.
You did this diagnosis.
But I can't come up with any of the symptoms. But I see they're trying to sell rice to Cuba, and they're looking for products to do bartering. So you have the Cuban market, and the Cubans don't have the foreign exchange, and they're running around to see what they can exchange for the rice from Nanpasad and so on. I don't know what's the bright spot you can think about at the present time. The bright thing that on the horizon, everybody say oil coming, and every man, woman, and child must be prepared for it. That's what they're saying.
Let's get it clear. Those were not my words, Raymond.
Who said that every man?
That was a 1929 banner headline in the Daily Argosy.
That oil coming,
yes,
and every man, woman, and child
yes,
must be prepared for it.
Do you know since 1850 we've been exploring for oil in Ghana?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes, in the Winey
yes.
we
and
dug a well.
I think the Russians were here at Takutu or some all over the place. Yes, they were looking for all over the place.
We've had a lot of years in terms of oil.
Well, now we found the thing. Now we found the thing, and we're waiting for it. And as far as these are concerned, the rest of the economy can go to hell because we're getting
No. That's not how it's maybe. Now that we found it, we found the Holy Grail.
Yes.
We need to stop worrying.
Yes.
We can all just sit back.
Yes.
And the oil will take care of us.
That's correct. You don't need sugar and rice and all that. You don't need that. You close down and shut down the whole place.
So your movement becomes irrelevant.
We'll never become irrelevant. So long as you have contradictions, you get relevant. Relevance comes from contradictions. That's where it comes from. Relevance comes from contradictions. That's where it comes from. So long as you have contradictions, you're going to get relevance. That's where they come from.
Are you going to announce a manifesto or anything like that?
We're going to announce some ideas that we have. Yes, a kind of thing like that. What we believe in. And all of those supporters can come aboard. And if you don't support us and you're happy with PPP and PNC, you can go right there.
All right. Well, let me put this to you. You're launching one day after the next Plain Talk. If you would like to come back on Plain Talk to explain some of your policies,
that you want to put forward on the Thursday,
then I'm inviting you once
Good.
again.
Thank you for that. We'll come up with how are we different from these people? How are we different from them? Yes.
All right.
Yes, we are different. You better believe that one. Yes.
Good to hear that, Raymond.
Yes.
So thank you once again, and we're on next week.
Yes.
Operators and viewers, thank you. Good night. I'll see you next week.